Think well before you speak, because your words may plant the seed of either success or failure in the mind of some other person. Those were very happy days. Nobody in the household was extravagant or had any extravagant tendencies except perhaps myself, for I was always inclined to be free with money. I liked to make gifts to the family and to entertain friends. When the first baby came into our home, a boy, we all thought heaven had opened its doors to us. My wife's parents, who took the keenest and deepest interest in our affairs and who were always ready to lend a helping hand, were equally happy over the coming of their first grandchild. My brother-in-law, much older than my wife and a bachelor, could not understand at first the joy we all felt, but even he began to strut around like a proud peacock after a while. What a difference a baby makes in a home. I am injecting these details into my story merely to emphasize how the early days of my life were lived. I had no opportunity to spend much money, and yet I had as much happiness in those days as I have ever had since. The strange thing about it all is that the experience of those days did not teach me the value of money. If anybody ever had a practical lesson to guide him in his future, I certainly had it. But let me tell you how this early experience affected me. The birth of my son inspired me to do something that would make more money than I was getting at teaching school and in writing for newspapers. I did not want my wife, mother, and sister to feel that they would have to continue indefinitely to do their part in sustaining the household. Why should a fellow, big and strong and healthy as I have always been, and with a reasonable amount of ability, be content to remain a spoke in the wheel? Why shouldn't I be the whole wheel as far as providing for the family was concerned? Following my desire to make more money, I took on the selling of books in addition to teaching and writing for newspapers. This earned for me quite a little extra money. Finally, I gave up teaching and concentrated on selling books and writing for newspapers. My book selling took me to Bridgeton, New Jersey. It was here that I got my first real start in money. I had to be away from home a great deal to do this work, but the sacrifice was worthwhile. I earned enough money in a few weeks to send more money home than I had contributed to the household in any year from my school teaching and newspaper correspondence. After combing the territory in the Bridgeton zone, I became interested in a newspaper in that city, the Morning Star. It seemed to me that the editor and publisher of this paper needed a helper. I called on him and told him so. He said, "Heavens, young man, how can I hire you? I am not earning enough money to pay for my own living." "That's just it," said I. "I believe together we could make the Star a success. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll work for you for 1 week for $1 a day. At the end of the week, if I have made good, I'll expect you to pay me $3 a day for the second week. And then, if I continue to do well, I'll expect you to pay me $6 a day for the third week, and we'll continue from then on until the paper makes enough money to pay me $50 a week." The owner agreed to my proposition. At the end of 2 months, I was being paid $50 a week, which in those days was considered a big salary. I began to feel that I was well on my way toward making money, but all I wanted it for was to make my family more comfortable. $50 a week was just 4 times as much as I had made teaching school. My job on the Star embraced editorial writing, not very brilliant, reporting, just ordinary, the writing and selling of advertisements, fairly successful, proofreading, bill collecting, and so forth. It kept me humping 6 days a week, but I could stand it, for I was strong and healthy, and besides, the work was very interesting. I also contributed correspondence to the New York Sun, Philadelphia Record, and the Trenton NJ Times, which brought me in an average of $150 a month, for this was a good news territory. I learned a lesson on the Star which eventually shaped the course of my life. I found out that there is a great deal more money to be earned by selling advertising for newspapers than in writing for them. Advertising brings grist to the mill. I put over one advertising stunt on the Star, a write-up of the South Jersey oyster industry, paid for by the oystermen, that brought in $3,000 cash, which the publisher divided with me, 50-50. I'd never seen so much money at one time in all my life. Think of it, $1,500, 25% more than I had made in 2 years of school teaching and odd tasks. Did I save this money or any part of it? I did not. What was the use? I could do so much with it to make my wife, boy, mother, and sister happy that I let it go. Far easier than I had made it. But would it not have been a fine thing if I had put this money away for a rainy day? My work in Bradington attracted the attention of Sam Hudson, New Jersey correspondent of the Philadelphia Record, who was a shining example of that type of newspaperman whose greatest pleasure in life is doing things for others. Sam told me that it was time for me to get located in a big city. He thought I had it in me to make good. He said he would get me a job in Philadelphia. He did, and I moved with my wife and baby to Germantown. I was given charge of the advertising department of the Germantown, Philadelphia Gazette, a weekly newspaper. At the start, I did not make as much money as I had earned in Bradington because I had to give up my newspaper correspondence. The news for this section was covered by other correspondents, but very soon I was making 25% more money. The Gazette increased its size 3 times to accommodate its advertising, and each time I received a very substantial increase in salary. In addition to this, I was given a job to gather social news for the Sunday edition of the Philadelphia Press. Bradford Merrill, managing editor of that newspaper, now a very important New York newspaper, executive, assigned me a big territory to cover. This kept me busy every night in the week except Saturdays. I was paid $5 a column, but I averaged 7 columns every Sunday, which made me $35 a week extra. It was more money for me to spend, and I spent it. I did not know anything about budgeting my expenses. I just let it go as it came. I did not have time, or thought I hadn't, to watch my step in spending. A year later, I was invited to join the advertising staff of the Philadelphia Press, a big opportunity for a young man, for I got wonderful training under the management of William L. McLean, now the owner of the Philadelphia Evening Bulletin. I still retained my job as gatherer of social news, so my income was just about the same as I had been making in Germantown. But before long, my work attracted the attention of James Elverson Sr., publisher of the Old Saturday Night and Golden Days, who had just purchased the Philadelphia Inquirer. I was offered and accepted the advertising management of this newspaper. This meant a big increase in my income, and soon afterward there came a happy increase in my family, the birth of a daughter. Then I was able to do what I had longed to do since the birth of my son. I got the family together again under one roof, my wife and 2 babies, my mother and sister. At last I was able to relieve my mother of any cares or responsibilities, and never again did she have either as long as she lived. She died in her 81st year, 25 years after my father's death. I shall never forget her last words to me. Will, you have never caused me a moment's worry since you were born, and I could not have had more than you have given me had I been the Queen of England. I was making at this time 4 times more money than my father had made as superintendent of public schools in my hometown of Phillipsburg, New Jersey. I am thankful that I was born poor, that I did not come into this world burdened by the whims of wealthy parents with a bag of gold around my neck. All the money, however, passed out of my pockets as easily as water flows through a sieve. Expenses increased with every increase in my income, which is the habit, I suppose, with most people. There was no sane reason, though, for letting my expenses go beyond my income, which I did. I found myself piling up debts, and from this time on I was never out of debt. I did not worry about my debts, though, for I thought I could pay them off at any time. It never occurred to me, not until fully 25 years later, that debt eventually would bring upon me not only great anxiety and unhappiness, but that I would lose friends and credit as well. But I must pat myself on the back for one thing. I was giving full rein to my big fault, spending money. As fast as I made it, often faster. But I never shirked my work. I was always trying to find more things to do, and I always found them. I spent very little time with my family. I would go home to dinner every night and romp with the babies until their bedtime. Then I would return to the office and often work. So the years went by. Another daughter arrived. Presently, I wanted my daughters to have a pony and cart, and I wanted my son to have a riding horse. Then, I thought I needed a team to take me around with the family, driving them to a closed coop or an open trap. I got them all. Instead of one horse and a carry, all or perhaps a team, which would have been sufficient for our needs and something we could have afforded. I had to have a stable with all that goes with it. This outfit cost me nearly 1/4 of my annual income. Then I took up golf. This was in my 41st year. I went at my play the same as I went at my work. Put my whole heart in it. I learned to play pretty well. My son and elder daughter played with me, and they learned to play well too. It was necessary that my younger daughter should spend the winter in the South and summers in the Adirondacks. But instead of her mother going with her alone, I felt it would be fine if the son and other daughter went along with them. This arrangement was carried out. They went to Pinehurst, North Carolina, every winter, and to expensive resorts in the Adirondacks or in New Hampshire in the summer. All this took a great deal of money. My son and elder daughter were keen about golf and spent a lot of money on it. I also disbursed quite a little on golf courses around New York. Between the three of us, we won 80 prizes, most of which are now in storage. I sat down one day and calculated what these prizes had cost me. I discovered that each trophy had cost 250 was, or a total of 45,000 won over a period of 15 years, an average of $3,000 a year. Ridiculous, wasn't it? I entertained lavishly at my home, Montclair. Folks thought I was a millionaire. I frequently invited groups of businessmen to have a day of golf at the club and then to have dinner with me in the eve. They would have been satisfied with a plain home dinner. But no, I must serve them an elaborate affair staged by a famous caterer. These dinners never cost less than $10 a plate, which did not include money spent for music while they were dining. I had a Negro quartet come to the house. Our dining room comfortably seated 20 people, and it was filled to capacity many times. It was all very lovely, and I was glad to be there. Host. In fact, I was very happy over it. I never stopped to think how rapidly I was piling up debts. The day came when they began to bother me a lot. I had entertained so many guests at the golf club one month, paying for luncheons, cigars, and greens fees, that my bill was $450. This attracted the attention of the directors of the club, who were all good friends of mine and very much interested in my welfare. They made it their business to tell me that I was spending entirely too much money, and they wished for my sake that I could check my expenses. This gave me a bit of a jolt. It made me think seriously long enough to get rid of my horses and traps, at a big sacrifice, of course. I gave up our home and moved back to the city. But I did not leave any unpaid bills in Montclair. I borrowed the money to pay them. It was always easy for me to get all the money I wanted, despite my well-known financial shortcomings. Here are two sidelights on my experience during my flaring 40s. Besides spending money foolishly and perhaps recklessly, I loaned it with equal abandon. In cleaning out my desk at home before moving to the city, I looked over a package of due bills, the total of which was over $40,000. That was money handed out to just anybody who came along. I tore them all up. But I realized that if I had that money in hand, I wouldn't owe $1. One of the prosperous businessmen I had entertained many times and who in turn had entertained me said to me, "Billy, I've got to stop going on outings with you. You spend entirely too much money for me. I can't keep up with you." Think of that coming from a man who was making more money than I was. It should have struck home, but it didn't. I went on spending just the same, and foolishly thinking that I was having a good time, and with no thought of the future. This man is now one of the vice presidents of one of New York's greatest financial institutions and is reported to be worth many millions of dollars. I should have taken his advice. In the fall of 1908, after my disastrous experience of 6 months in another line of business following my resignation from the Hearst organization, I resume newspaper work as advertising manager of the New York Evening Mail. I had known Henry L. Stoddard, editor and owner, back in the Philadelphia days when he was political correspondent for the press. Despite the fact that I was bothered by debts, did the best work of my life on the Evening Mail and made more money during the 5 years I was associated with it than I had ever made before. Moreover, Mr. Stoddard gave me the privilege of syndicating advertising talks, which ran in his paper for 1,000 consecutive publication days and earned for me more than $55,000. Mr. Stoddard was very generous in many other ways and frequently paid me special sums of money for doing what he considered unusual things in the way of developing business. During this period, I was so deeply in debt that, in order to keep things moving as smoothly as possible, but without retrenching in the slightest way in my expenses, I borrowed money from Peter to pay Paul, and from Paul to pay Peter. That item of $55,000 earned from syndicating advertising talks would have more than paid all my debts and left a nice nest egg besides. But all of it was spent as easily as though I hadn't a care in the world. In 1915, I went on my own in the advertising business. From that time until the spring of 1922, my fees ran into very big figures. I was still making more money than I ever did, and was spending it just as fast as I made it, until finally my friends got tired of making me loans. If I had shown the slightest inclination to curb my expenses to the extent of only 10%, these wonderful men would have been willing to divide 50-50 with me, letting me pay them 5% of it and saving 5%. They did not care so much about the return of the money they had loaned me as that they wanted to see me pull myself together. The crash in my affairs came 5 years ago. 2 friends who had stood by me loyally became impatient and told me frankly that I needed a drastic lesson. They gave it to me all right. I was forced into bankruptcy, which nearly broke my heart. I felt that every person I knew was pointing the finger of scorn at me. This was very foolish. While there was comment, it was not at all unfriendly. It was expressive of keen regret that a man who had attained so much prestige in his profession and had earned so fortunate is the person who has learned that the most certain way to get is to first give through some sort of useful service. Much money should have allowed himself to get into financial difficulties. Proud and sensitive to the core, I felt the disgrace of bankruptcy so keenly that I decided to go to Florida, where I had once done a special piece of work for a client. It seemed to me to be the coming El Dorado. I figured that maybe I could make sufficient money in a few years so that I could return to New York, not only with a competency but with enough to pay all my debts in full. For a time it looked as though I would realize this ambition, but I was caught in the big real estate collapse. So here I am back in the old town where I once had big earning power and hundreds of friends and well-wishers. It has been a strange experience. One thing is certain, I have learned my lesson at last. I feel sure that opportunities will come my way to redeem myself and that my earning power will be restored to me. And when that time comes, I know that I shall be able to live as well as I ever did on 40% of my income Then I shall divide the remaining 60% into two parts, setting aside 30% to pay my creditors and 30% for insurance and savings. If I allowed myself to feel depressed over my past or filled my mind with worries, I would not be capable of carrying on the fight to redeem myself. Besides, I would be ungrateful to my Maker for having endowed me with wonderful health all my life. Is there any greater blessing? I would be ungrateful to the memory of my parents whose splendid training has kept me anchored pretty safely to moral standards. Slipping from moral moorings is infinitely more serious in the end than slipping from the thrift standard. I would lack appreciation of the encouragement and support I have had in generous measure from hundreds of businessmen and to many good friends who helped me build a fine reputation in my profession. These memories are the sunshine of my life, and I shall use them to pave the way to my future achievement. With abundance of health, unfaltering faith, unflagging energy, unceasing optimism, and unbounded confidence that a man can win his fight, even though he commences late in life to realize the kind of fight he must make. Is there anything but death to stop him? Unto. Mr. Freeman's story is the same as that which might be told by thousands of other men who save nothing, with the exception that the amounts of their incomes would vary. The manner of living, the way the money was spent, and why, as told in Mr. Freeman's narrative, show the way the spender's mind works. Unto. Compilation of statistics covering family incomes and expenditures of over 16,000 families of men who have been analyzed by the author disclosed some facts that will be of help to the person who wishes to. Reprinted by courtesy of the American Magazine. Copy. Right, the Crowell Publishing Company, 1927. Budget his income and disbursements on a practical, working basis that is sound and economical. The average income runs all the way from $100 to $300 per month. The budget allowance, covering incomes within these two amounts, should be about as follows. A family consisting of two persons whose income is $100 a month should manage to set aside at least $10 or $12 a month for the savings account. The cost of shelter or rent should not exceed $25 or $30 a month. Food costs should average about $25 to $30. Clothing should be kept within an expenditure of $15 to $20 a month. Recreation and incidentals should be kept down to about $80 to $10 a month. A family whose income is $100 a month, should that income be increased to $125, ought to save at least $20 of the amount. A family of two persons whose income is $150 a month should budget their funds about as follows. Savings $25, shelter or rent $35 to $40, food $35 to $40, clothes $20 to $30, recreation $10 to $15. On a salary of $200 a month, the budget should be savings $50, shelter or rent $40 to $50, food $35 to $45, clothes $30 to $35, recreation $15 to $20. A family of two on a salary or income of $300 a month should apportion the income about thus: savings $55 to $65, shelter or rent $45 to $60, food $45 to $60, clothes $35 to $45, recreation and education $50 to $75. Some might argue that a family of two making a rye of $300 a month might live just as cheaply as one making but $100 or $125. However, this is not quite correct, because one who has the ability to earn $300 a month must as a rule associate with people who make better appearances and more entertainment necessary. A single man earning $100, $150 or $300 a month should save considerably more than a man with a family could save on the same amounts. As a rule, a single man who has no dependents and who is not in debt should live on a budget of $50 a month for room and food, and not to exceed $30 a month for clothes and perhaps $10 for recreation. These amounts might be slightly increased by one who earned from $150 to $300 a month. A boy who lives away from home and whose weekly income is only $20 should save $5 of the amount. The remainder should cover cost of food, room and clothes. A girl living away from home on the same income would require a slightly larger allowance for clothes, as women's wearing apparel is more costly than men's, and it is generally imperative that women watch more closely than men their personal appearance. A family of 3 will be able to save considerably less than the amounts which can be saved by a family of 2, with rare exceptions, however, such as cases where the family is involved in debt, which must be absorbed out of the monthly income. Any family can save at least 5% of the gross income. It is a common practice today for families to purchase automobiles on monthly payments which involve too great an expenditure compared to their income. A man with a Ford income has no business purchasing a Studebaker car. He should curb his desires and content himself with a Ford. Many single men spend their entire incomes and often go into debt. Besides, because they maintain automobiles out of keeping with their incomes, this common practice is fatal to success as far as financial independence may be considered a part of success. In thousands of instances, the installment plan of buying has become so common, and it is so easy to purchase practically anything one desires, that the tendency to spend out of proportion to one's income is rapidly increasing. This tendency must be curbed by the person who has made up his mind to gain financial independence. It can be done by anyone who is willing to try. Another evil, which is both an evil and a blessing, is the fact that this country is so very prosperous that money comes easily, and if not watched, it goes still more easily. Since the beginning of the World War, there has been a steady demand for practically everything manufactured in the United States, and this condition of prosperity has caused people to lapse into a state of careless, unjustified spending. There is no virtue in keeping up with the pace set by neighbors, when this means sacrifice of the habit of saving a regular part of one's income. It is far better, in the long run, to be considered a bit behind the times than it is to go along through youth into the days of maturity and finally into old age without having formed the habit of systematic saving. It is better to sacrifice during the age of youthfulness than it is to be compelled to do so during the age of maturity, as all who have not developed the habit of saving generally have to do. There is nothing quite so humiliating that carries. I am thankful for the adversities which have crossed my pathway, for they have taught me tolerance, sympathy, self-control, perseverance, and some other virtues I might never have known. Such great agony and suffering as poverty and old age, when personal services are no longer marketable and one must turn to relatives or to charitable institutions for existence. A budget system should be maintained by every person, both the married and the single, but no budget system will work out if the person trying to keep it lacks the courage to cut expenses on such items as those of entertainment and recreation. If you feel so weak in willpower that you think it necessary to keep up with the Smiths with whom you associate socially and whose income is greater than your own, or who spend all of their income foolishly, then no budget system can be of service to you. Forming the savings habit means that, to some extent at least, you must seclude yourself from all except a well-selected group of friends who enjoy you, without elaborate entertaining on your part. To admit that you lack the courage to trim down your expenditures so that you can save money, even if only a small amount, is the equivalent of admitting at the same time a lack of the sort of character which leads to success. It has been proved times too numerous to be mentioned that people who have formed the habit of saving money are always given preference in positions of responsibility. Therefore, the saving of money not only adds advantages in the nature of preferred employment and a larger bank account, but it also increases the actual earning capacity. Any business man will prefer to employ a person who saves money regularly, not because of the mere fact that such person saves money, but because of the characteristics possessed by such a person which make him or her more efficient. Many firms will not employ a man or a woman who does not save money. It should be a common practice for all business houses to require all employees to save money. This would be a blessing to thousands of people who would not otherwise have the willpower to form the savings habit. Henry Ford has gone a very long way, perhaps as far as is expedient, to induce his employees not only to save their money, but to spend what they do spend wisely and to live sanely and economically. The man who induces his employees to form the habit of saving is a practical philanthropist. Opportunities that come to those who have saved money. A few years ago, a young man came to Philadelphia from the farming district of Pennsylvania and went to work in a printing plant. One of his fellow workmen owned some shares in a building and loan company and had formed the habit of saving $5 a week through this association. This young man was influenced by his associate to open an account with the building and loan company. At the end of 3 years, he had saved $900. The printing plant for which he worked got into financial difficulty and was about to fail. He came to the rescue with his $900, which he had saved in small amounts, and in return was given a half interest in the business. By inaugurating a system of close economy, he helped the business to pay off its indebtedness, and today he is drawing out of it as his half of the profits, a little better than $25,000 a year. This opportunity never would have come, or if it had, he would not have been prepared to embrace it, had he not formed the habit of saving money. When the Ford automobile was perfected during the early days of its existence, Henry Ford needed capital to promote the manufacture and sale of his product. He turned to a few friends who had saved up a few $1,000s, one of whom was Senator Couzens. These friends came to his rescue, put in a few $1,000s with him, and later drew out millions of dollars in profits. When Woolworth first started his 5 and 10 cent store plan, he had no capital, but he turned to a few friends who had saved, by the closest sort of economy and great sacrifice, a few $1,000s. These friends staked him, and later they were paid back hundreds of thousands of dollars in profits. Van Huysen, of soft collar fame, conceived the idea of producing a semi-soft collar for men. His idea was sound, but he had not a cent to promote it. He turned to a few friends who had only a few $100, who gave him a start, and the collar made each of them wealthy. The men who started the El Producto cigar business had but little capital, and what they did have was money they had saved from their small earnings. As cigar makers, they had a good idea and knew how to make a good cigar, but the idea would have died born in had they not saved a little money. With their meager savings, they launched the cigar, and a few years later they sold out their business to the American Tobacco Company for $8,000 more. Back of practically every great fortune one may find as its beginning a well-developed habit of saving money. John D. Rockefeller was an ordinary bookkeeper. He conceived the idea of developing the oil business, which was then not even considered a business. He needed capital, and because he had developed the habit of saving and had thereby proved that he could conserve the funds of other people, he had no difficulty in borrowing what money he needed. It may be truthfully stated that the real basis of the Rockefeller fortune is the habit of saving money, which Mr. Rockefeller developed while working as a bookkeeper at a salary of $40 a month. James J. Hill was a poor young man working as a telegrapher at a salary of $30 a month. He conceived the idea of the Great Northern Railway system, but his idea was out of proportion to his ability to finance. However, he had formed the habit of saving money, and on the meager salary of 30 Jacuzubalos month had saved enough to enable him to pay his expenses on a trip to Chicago, where he interested capitalists in financing his plan. The fact that he himself had saved money on a small salary was considered good evidence that he would be a safe man to trust with other people's money. Most businessmen will not trust another man with their money unless he has demonstrated his ability to take care of his own and use it wisely. The test, while it is often embarrassing to those who have not formed the habit of saving, is a very practical one. A young man who worked in a printing plant in the city of Chicago wanted to open a small print shop and go into business for himself. He went to a printing supply house manager and made known his wants, saying he desired credit for a printing press and some type and other small equipment. The first question asked by the manager was, "Have you saved any money of your own?" He had. Out of his salary of $30 a week, he had saved $15 a week regularly for nearly 4 years. He got the credit he wanted. Later on, he got more credit until today he has built up one of the most successful printing plants in the city of Chicago. His name is George B. Williams, and he is well known, as are also the facts here stated, to the author of this course. Many years after this incident, the author of this course became acquainted with Mr. Williams, and at the end of the war in 1918, the author went to Mr. Williams and asked for credit amounting to many thousands of dollars for the purpose of publishing the Golden Rule magazine. The first question asked was, "Have you formed the habit of saving money?" Despite the fact that all the money I had saved was lost in the war, the mere fact that I had actually formed the savings habit was the real basis on which I got credit for upward of 30,000 nuns. There are opportunities on every corner, but they exist only for those who have ready money or who can command money because they have formed the habit of saving and developed the other characteristics which go with the formation of the savings habit, known by the general term of character.